Year is 2005. Lakshmi sits down to read the newspaper and reads a headline. The Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Bill has been passed and will soon be an act. She reads the article, and this tells her that domestic violence includes acts of physical, sexual, verbal, and economic violence, and that the act will apply to all women in all parts of India, irrespective of marital status and religion. Lakshmi's husband Vinod told her after marriage that she would not need to work outside the house as he made enough money for both of them and that she did not have to shoulder the financial burden. But Lakshmi wanted to put her education to use, so she asked Vinod one day if she could apply for a job. Vinod got angry and slapped her across the face. So now, as Lakshmi is reading the newspaper, she is beginning to understand that there is a name for what she has been through. She understands that she has been a victim of domestic violence. Domestic violence is a broad topic with many layers, but a basic definition would be that it refers to harm caused to the safety, life, health, and well-being of a person. This can be physical violence, which includes hitting and other bodily harm. The case of Vinod slapping Lakshmi happened only once in the course of their 5-year marriage. But the frequency of the act does not come into consideration here, so even this one instance does count as domestic violence. Sexual assault is also a form of domestic violence. Although marital rape is not recognized as a crime in India, a husband forcing his wife to engage in sex can be considered an act of cruelty. Domestic violence can also be psychological, which can be an insult communicated verbally or controlling every aspect of a person's life. Reading this, Lakshmi is reminded of her friend Anu, whose in-laws call her names because she has not had children despite being married for 3 years. She thinks about sharing the news about the Domestic Violence Act with Anu. Another form of domestic violence is economic, such as monitoring a person's access to money and keeping them financially dependent. This form of violence is also applicable to Lakshmi, as Vinod is willfully stopping her from having her own income, by which she must depend on him for money. Apart from married women, this act is applicable to unmarried women staying with the family they were born into or adopted by, and also to unmarried women in live-in relationships with men. Through the enactment of Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, violence against married women has been a crime in India since 1983. But the 2005 Act is a watershed moment in Indian law as it outlines the creation of a support system for all women who have faced domestic violence. An aggrieved woman can contact a list of people or organizations that can help her come out of her situation. We'll get to that in a moment. In addition to this, the Act also gives a woman the right to order of protection against her husband and family. This means that a woman who files a complaint against a member of her marital home has a right to continue living in that house and cannot be thrown out after she files a complaint. The Act does not require a survivor of domestic violence to file a complaint herself. It can also be filed by a witness of the violence or a well-wisher on the survivor or victim's behalf. Lakshmi cannot file a case against Vinod for domestic violence after she has read the news, as the law does not apply in retrospect. But she has decided that she will seek outside help if Vinod shows violence again. So, what would her options be? The first resort would be to file a police complaint. According to the law, the police should treat a domestic violence survivor with sensitivity. The investigating officer then decides if the complainant needs to provide a statement or be spoken to further. The second option is to hire a lawyer who can initiate a court case or help with the right information about the legal options available. The courts have, in the past, risen to the defense of aggrieved women. In a 2019 case, the Supreme Court said that a complaint of domestic violence may be filed against a husband or male partner or against his relatives depending on the situation. This is important as it gives an unmarried woman in a live-in relationship with a man the same rights as a married woman. The same year, the Calcutta High Court directed a man to award a compensation of 1 lakh rupees to his wife on account of the mental agony caused to her by his conduct. Though the complainant got the court to award a compensation in this case, the court said that the grant of compensation cannot be justified in the absence of evidence. The burden of proof is a big issue in cases of domestic violence. In the absence of it, the courts may not always be in the woman's favor. In a 2019 judgment, the Supreme Court said that a mere allegation of domestic violence is not enough to bring a case under the purview of the Domestic Violence Act. In 2018, the conviction rate for domestic violence cases under Section 498A was only 13% compared to the 50% conviction rate for all IPC cases that year. If going to the police or court is too intimidating or expensive, a survivor can approach non-governmental avenues like NGOs or women's helplines for guidance. These avenues offer support to survivors by helping them with legal information and offering counseling. These are some of the resource centers for domestic violence survivors in India. In 2015, the Ministry of Women and Child Development launched Swadhar Grah for women in distress. The scheme aims to provide shelter, clothing, food, counseling, training, and legal aid to women in distress. The list of beneficiaries includes survivors of domestic violence. As of 31st December 2020, 362 shelters were operational. The list of these is in the description. But only 43.7% of the total fund allotted to the scheme was utilized in the 3 financial years from 2017 to 2020. Despite all the systems in place for women to seek help, the fact is that there are many obstacles a domestic violence survivor will have to overcome, the main one being the reactions of the people around her. The medical system often refuses to see domestic violence as a health issue and does not screen patients for violence. And the police and the victim's loved ones often either don't take her complaint seriously or blame her for not speaking up until it's too late. On the large scale, the government should ensure strict implementation of the law on the ground so that women who come forward to complain feel safe in doing so. They should have the confidence that their complaint will be taken seriously and that they have a safe place to stay in after doing so. At the individual level, each of us should educate ourselves on the issue and share the right information